Hi, thanks for joining us again for our family time. And last week we looked at Adam and we went to Noah and then we went to Abraham. And this week we're going to look at Jacob. Now, Abraham had Isaac, and there's not a whole lot about Isaac really in the Bible. And then Isaac had twin boys. Their names were Esau and Jacob. Now, they were fraternal twins, which means they weren't identical, and so they were very different in looks and in personality. But Esau was the older one. The name Esau literally means red and hairy. I know it's crazy. It's probably a little bit like this right here. Now, maybe not quite that extreme, and he probably didn't walk like that, but you get the idea. Now, Jacob's name means trickster, and it's heel grabber. When he came out, he was literally holding Esau's heel. And so we're going to see that a little bit more in Jacob's life. Well, you see, the older one, Esau, he was just a tough dude. He was a hunter, and he would go out and he would do stuff like that. Jacob, it says he would remain around the tents, which basically I think it means he was pretty much a wimp. Jacob was kind of wimpy, and then we see this whole thing go down with the two of them. In Genesis 25, it says this. Once when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from the open country famished. Basically, Esau's out hunting, he comes back in, and he's super hungry. He said to Jacob, "Quick, let me have some of that red stew, I'm famished." That is why he is also called Edom. And then Jacob replied, "First sell me your birthright." So get this picture now. Jacob is cooking food. Esau is starving to death. Esau's like, "I need some food." And Jacob says, "Give me your birthright." That basically, give me your inheritance that you get to be the firstborn. Let me have that. And Esau says, "Look, I'm about to die. What good is the birthright to me?" I'm going to be honest. Esau's probably exaggerating here. He's probably not literally going to die from starvation. But Jacob said, "Swear to me first." So he swore an oath to him, selling his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and some lentil stew. He ate and drank and then got up and left. So Esau despised his birthright. Basically, since Esau was the oldest, he would get everything. That's what the birthright is. He would get the full inheritance. But he didn't care. He made a crazy decision in a moment of wanting something. I think this is a great lesson for all of us. We have to be careful what we do or say in just a moment. We have to be careful of what we do in just a rash moment of wanting something, of desire, because it may come back to hurt us. All right, stop. Discussion time. I know all you parents got that. It's a little joke there. But we're going to have our video time is going to be stopped here. You're going to pause it, and we're going to have our discussion. And here are the questions that are come up on the screen for you. Discuss this with your kids. Was it wise or unwise for Esau to sell his birthright for some food? And why do you think that? The second question we want you to discuss is this. How should we make decisions? What are some ways to keep us from making bad decisions? Okay, so we're back, and Esau sold his birthright, but Jacob still had to get his dad's blessing. So this is what happened. Isaac is old and blind at this point, and he calls in Esau. And he says to Esau, he says, "I want you to go kill some wild game, go kill some animals, cook it, bring it to me and eat, and I will give you my blessing." Well, Jacob's mom heard this, and Jacob was her favorite. And so she came up with a plan. She had Jacob go and get some of Esau's clothes and put them on so he would smell like Esau, which I don't even know what that would be. Maybe he smells really bad. Maybe he smells like Old Spice. I don't know what Esau smelled like, but Jacob was to smell like him. And then she had him get some wild game, and they cooked it up in a stew. And Jacob says, "Well, but when I go and see my dad and he touches me, he'll know I'm not Esau." So they took a goat skin and put it on Jacob's arm. That's how hairy Esau was. It was kind of like this. And so you can tell that Jacob is considerably different than Esau. But he gets on the clothes and he goes in to see Isaac. He brings the stew to him and he says, "I'm your son Esau." He lies to him. And Isaac says, "It sounds like Jacob, but it smells like Esau." And then he feels his arm and he goes, "It feels like Esau." So he eats the stew, and Isaac then blesses Jacob. Well, Jacob leaves, and right after that, Esau comes in. And Esau says, "Hey, I've done what you wanted me to do, Dad, and I got some wild game, and here's your stew." And Isaac says, "What are you talking about? I've already blessed you." And he goes, No, it wasn't me." And basically, Jacob had stolen his birthright and his blessing, and Esau is furious. He is so mad because his dad now doesn't have a blessing for him. I mean, this is a major, major problem. And so Esau gets mad. He gets really mad. And as I said, he's probably the tougher of the two. And he says this. He says, when the time of mourning is over for my dad, because his dad was about to die, I am going to kill Jacob. And it sounds like from the way they are, he could have easily done that. So Jacob, then, he has to run off and run away. All right, stop. Discussion time. Here's what I want you to talk about as a family. First is this. Was what Jacob did right or wrong? And why would you say it was? Whether you believe it was right or wrong, why was it right or wrong? And the second question is this. What were the consequences of Jacob lying and cheating his brother? What happened because of that? And the third question, why should we not lie and cheat people? So go ahead and discuss that as a family. So we're back, and Jacob has run off. And he meets a guy named Laban. Now, Laban has 2 daughters. And the Bible says one of them's eyes are weak. Let me tell you what that means. It means she's pretty homely. All right? He's got 2 daughters. One's Leah and one's Rachel. And Leah is not very pretty. She probably looks like this. Yeah, it's not the best. And Rachel is very pretty. And so, of course, Jacob wants to marry Rachel. Laban says this. You can marry my daughter if you stay here and work for 7 years. Jacob says, all right, because he's in love with Rachel. And so he stays and he works for 7 years. And he works for him, and then he goes to get married. And the day of the marriage, I don't know how this worked, but evidently he accidentally married Leah. And Laban had set that up, and he tricked him, and so he married the kind of the one that he didn't really want, the ugly one. And so he's all mad, Jacob is. He's been tricked. And Laban says, well, it's customary for the oldest one to get married first. But if you work another 7 years, then you can marry Rachel. Back then, they would marry more than one person. It's kind of a weird situation. But Jacob says, okay, because he wanted to marry Rachel so bad. So he stays and he works, and during this time, he ends up having a bunch of kids. He has 12 sons and 1 daughter. And he's like, I need to go. Now that I've worked all these 14 years for you, it's time for me to take my family and to go and to begin a new life somewhere else. Laban says, you've been so good here, and I've been blessed because you've been here. Why don't you stay for a little bit longer? What kind of agreement can we make here? And Jacob, again, remember, he's trickster. And he's been tricked by Laban, and he goes and tries to trick Laban now. And he says this, he says, we will divide out all your sheep. All the sheep who have spots on them and are speckled, I get. And all the sheep that are not, that are pure white, you get to keep. And he says, over the next year or so, I will do that, and I'll take care of them. And over that time, after the end of it, I'll take the speckled ones, you take the ones that aren't. Laban says, okay, that sounds great. But Jacob had a plan. I don't know how this worked, but evidently, if they ate certain things, the sheep would, then they would begin to be born with speckles on them. And so they would begin to be born with dark spots. And you can see from the picture that we have that there were dark spots on some of them. And so after a year, it seemed like almost every sheep that was born, all the strong, healthy ones, all had speckles because Jacob set that up by making them eat certain things. Well, he begins to leave and he takes all this stuff, and Laban's family realizes, wait a second. He basically has taken everything from us, and they chase him down, and they go to try to kill him, but Jacob gets away. Well, that's not the end of Jacob's problems. You see, Jacob has this trail of all these issues because he's lied and he's tricked people. As he begins to leave, he has to go through another country, and when he begins to go through this other country, he realizes who's in charge there. It's his brother Esau. Well, as you can remember, Esau wants to kill Jacob, and he's still mad about that whole thing probably. So Jacob comes up with a plan. He sends all these tributes to Esau ahead of him over and over again to try to appease Esau. And he does that, and the night before he's about to meet Esau, he goes by himself. And an angel shows up. An angel of the Lord shows up, and Jacob begins to wrestle with the angel. He grabs the angel and says, bless me. I will not let go until you bless me. The angel ends up giving him a blessing. But they wrestled all night. That is crazy. Well, you know what? It's time now for our family fun time. Here's what we're going to ask you to do. We want you to have a family wrestling time. I know that sounds crazy and weird, but you can have a lot of fun. It can be as simple as, just laying on the floor and letting the kids pin you. It can be more elaborate. Some of you may have wrestling masks or whatever you want to wear, and you can just have a really good time together doing this as a family. And here's what we want you to do. We want you to record it or take pictures and post it on the Facebook and attach it there so we can see it and we can all share together in the family fun time. So just have a fun family wrestling match together, and you can be like Jacob. Well, after Jacob is wrestling with this angel, the angel touches his hip and it dislocates and he lets go. And then the next day he goes to meet Esau. Now, if you're Jacob, you are scared to death. You are so scared that Esau is going to kill you. And so he goes to Esau, and Esau says, I have forgiven you. I have forgiven you. I'm doing fine. I don't need your stuff. I've got my own country, my own place. And so he is doing perfectly good, and he forgives Jacob, even though Jacob has lied, Jacob has stolen, Jacob has done all these things to him. So Jacob moves on, and he gets to go to his own land. And he begins to grow his family and to flourish, and he gets to be there in his own place. And next week, we're going to talk about Jacob's family, and we're going to talk about some of his sons and what happens with them. But it's time for our last discussion. And here are the questions that we want you to talk about as a family. The first is this: why is it important to tell the truth? We see that Jacob is not good at that. And it caused problem after problem. Why is it good to tell the truth? And the second question is this: what do people think of when you trick them all the time like Jacob did? How do people think of you whenever you trick them all the time like Jacob did? And the third question is this: why did Jacob have so many people trying to get him and trying to kill him? How could he have prevented that? I want you to discuss this idea as a family: is how could Jacob have not had all these problems, and why telling the truth is so important. Now, as we wrap up here, I don't want you to forget to do our family fun time. I know it may sound a little crazy, but I promise it will be a lot of fun for your family. So get together and just do some wrestling time. My family is going to do it, and we're going to post a video of that. And we appreciate you doing these family times together because it is great for us to intentionally train our kids. It's great for us to intentionally be together as families as we study and learn God's Word, because it all goes together to help us guide and lead our life. So make sure you come back next week as we look at Jacob's family and specifically Joseph, and we see where God is leading them. Thanks.